How's it going, everyone? It's Sam. It sounds like the Fed just announced the end. This is going to be interesting. This is good for risk assets. Let's talk about this. I'll show you what's happening in the market here today. And for some reason, whenever I talk about the Fed, the video doesn't really get viewed that much. It's weird. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because people think it's time sensitive and they hear about the Fed and then they just don't want to watch a video anymore. But stay through to the end because there's going to be some very important news for cryptocurrency holders. And we're going to go through a little bit of what Jerome Powell said, just the key talking points, along with how this affects the crypto market. If you don't mind, hit subscribe, turn on the bell notification underneath the video so you can see future videos just like this as soon as I make them. There's also going to be a link to Margex where you can trade cryptocurrency. When you see bullish things happen and you see the market go down, that is typically a good time to be jumping in. If you understand everything, if you actually know what's going on, that's typically a good time to be jumping in. So maybe you want to leverage trade right now. Check out the link underneath the video. They're going to load up another airdrop on there. There's also a link to CoinW and to Blowfin as well, so definitely do that. Oh, by the way, if you didn't know this, on Margex, if you sign up and then you know someone that likes to trade crypto, you can actually send them your referral link. It's up here. You just send it to them, and then you make some of the fees that they pay. So maybe you have a really wealthy friend, maybe you have a crypto trader that wants some way of, or maybe you have some influence too. Maybe you have a channel of your own. You can also give this out to other people and then you can get some referral fees. Now, let's start here. We have crypto falling down a little bit. We have some altcoins falling down as well, just in the last 1 hour, just slightly down, a little bit red. But the overall market actually looks pretty green. Right now, let's see here, the Nasdaq's up 2.6% here today. And it's down a little bit from the exact peak during the Jerome Powell speech, but it's doing quite well. Actually, I don't talk about my Patreon very much, but yesterday Microsoft announced earnings. They were actually really good. They double beat on revenue and net income, but people didn't like to see their cloud revenue and cloud growth. So it fell down like 7%. We were actually able to snipe this at 393. I talked about on the Patreon. If you want to join that, you can check it out underneath the video. Been buying a lot of stocks recently, not as much crypto, just because we swallowed up so much during the bear market. So kind of interesting there. But Powell is sounding very dovish. We'll talk about why this is so important, why it matters so much what Jerome Powell's doing, and what they're actually doing behind the scenes as well. But Benjamin Cohen saying he sounds pretty dovish. Let me go through some of the things that he said specifically. And yeah, I sat here and watched the whole thing. It just got done. They asked him, and this is basically what he said in a nutshell, and the questions in a nutshell, not word for word. But is a September rate cut reasonable? He said they made no decisions on the next meeting, but they are confident in employment. But they are more confident in employment and inflation numbers recently. So they're taking it meeting by meeting, but they are getting more confident. Someone said, is a cut the baseline scenario now? Because that's what markets are pricing in. He said, if inflation continues to move down quickly or at expectations, then a rate cut is on the table. However, if inflation is higher than expected, we'd have to weigh that. Now, I thought this was pretty telling because he said basically, if inflation is at expectations or good, we'll probably rate cut. If it's higher than expected, we'll have to weigh it, which means basically we still might rate cut. So, I mean, it's leaning towards rate cut at this point. He said they just need to get more good info to start cutting rates for the September. Someone said, well, would you consider preemptive cuts, like if we get lower numbers? And he said, basically, if there's something alarming, then maybe they would consider that, but they think they're in a good place. So again, unless there's some massive problem in the labor market, then probably not going to cut rates. So ahead of time, like an emergency cut where they, have an emergency meeting. They asked, are 3 rate cuts reasonable? That's what the market's pricing in. And he said, depends on how the economy evolves. 0 cuts to several cuts makes sense to him. Okay. They asked also, would you consider a 50 basis point cut at the next meeting? And he said That's not really what they're thinking about. Of course, they have not made a decision, but that's not really in the cards, basically. And that's basically what he said. He did sound pretty dovish, I think. Like, it sounds like they're going to start cutting rates, and they're planning on several cuts possibly this year, which is what the market's pricing in. And like I said, the stock market liked it. Of course, there's a bit of a dip. Now, after he finished speaking, that's quite normal, actually. Even if he says very dovish information, the market maybe prices in a little bit too much, or people are just taking some profits because we're up significantly on the day. He also said a reduction in our policy rate could be on the table as soon as the next meeting in September, word for word. Okay. So they left the rates unchanged today, but they're looking at it in the future. This is some information from Trueflation. The actual inflation right now is 1.51%. The Federal Reserve reported inflation is 3%. Okay, so obviously, I really do think they probably look at this and maybe weigh this a little bit, that they are working with very old information. They probably actually talk about Trueflation, like the website, and what the true inflation is, as opposed to their lagging indicators. Now, why is this so important? Why is it so important? Well, the thing is, people always have to figure out where to put their money. If there are people making a ton of money in banks without really much risk at all, and it's all federally insured, they're going to put a lot of money there. But if they get 1%, 2%, they're going to say, nope, I can make 10% in the market. It's not worth it. So as the rates continue to come down, they put their money in more risky assets. Now, there are certain companies that really like where rates are at right now. Like Tether just reported a record-breaking profit of $5.2 billion for the first half of 2024. They're loving it. They're printing money. They have $97 billion in treasuries right now, which means just from that, they make $5 billion a year, very risk-free. Then, of course, they're making money in other ways too, because they have $5.2 billion already in profit for the first half of the year. So they're just printing money. There are other companies that like these high rate environments as well. But keep in mind that Tether will be putting some money into Bitcoin at some point, most likely. They also have said that they're going to shovel money into Bitcoin. Now, they've done this in the past. They bought 8,888 Bitcoin the last 2 quarters in a row. We have not seen anything yet, though. They were supposed to do this about a month ago, if they were going to keep track, maybe, or keep on pace. Maybe they aren't going to buy this quarter. Maybe they say, well, the last time we bought at 70,000. We have enough allocation. We are happy right now with $2.5 or $2.7 billion worth of Bitcoin. Now, I'll be honest, that's what this account shows. That's what this wallet shows. But I saw something floating around Twitter that showed that they actually had 4.7 billion in Bitcoin. So maybe they're just buying in a different wallet now, right? So I say they haven't bought this quarter. It's very possible they could have just bought somewhere else or with a different wallet. Now, that would mean that they have around 2.1 billion in some other wallet. I don't see. Well, let's go back to the Bitcoin rich list. 2.1 billion. Maybe it's one of these other wallets that's unlabeled. Let's see if this would make even sense if they would do this at the end of the quarter, because, like I said, the other wallet does buy at specific times. Yeah, this one wouldn't make sense because they just bought one time essentially, then have been selling off. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see what the other wallet is if we ever find that information out, or we'll just have to wait for the end of the quarter when they say how much Bitcoin they have, because they are a big buyer of Bitcoin and then also of treasuries. I like to pay attention to what Tether's doing because honestly, they may be the most profitable business in all of crypto. And keep in mind, there are other forms of, quantitative easing. U.S. Treasury increases liquidity buyback total to 30 billion from 15 billion. So they continue to print more money. They continue to increase liquidity. They will continue to do all of that and run up our debt. So you might want to get your hands on something that is hard, something that's a hard asset that will continue to appreciate as everything else devalues. All other non-appreciating assets devalue. Let me know your thoughts though underneath the video. Overall, Bitcoin moving down a little bit on this news. I don't think it's a really big issue. I think we're sitting in a very good place for Bitcoin right now. Now, keep in mind, there are some catalysts coming up, right? We have inflation numbers coming up in a week and a half or so, 2 weeks. We have more earnings coming out like today. Tomorrow we have Amazon earnings. So that will influence the markets a bit. Amazon's such a large company. It will affect cryptos, slightly to a lot. And then there's a lot of other catalysts coming up in the next couple months. So be ready. Summer is usually boring, but we are approaching, unfortunately for the weather, we're approaching the end of the summer. Now, luckily for your pocketbooks, we're all approaching the end of the summer. Usually crypto and stocks do better in the second half of the year than they do in the third and fourth quarter than they do right around the summertime. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Check out the links underneath the video in case you want to start trading crypto. I'll see you in the next one.